there, fantasy owners. You're just about to watch our Week 6 midweek waiver wire episode, and just seen that Murray is off of IR. I recorded the original episode before he came off IR, so ignore Eric Schalgren during the goalie portion of the episode, and you're about to get into it and watch it. Good luck, fantasy owners. Hey there, fantasy owners. LTC Fantasy here. Not sure if you're chiming in watching via YouTube or listening via podcast, but want to thank you for watching the episode no matter how you're streaming it. Also want to thank our new and current subscribers there. Really do appreciate the support. And if you're not subscribed, think about doing so, as we put out 3 longer episodes every week to hopefully help strengthen your fantasy roster. As well as on YouTube, we put out daily shorts looking at the players for the next day's games, just in case you're in case of a pinch, to give you a little bit of an edge in your fantasy matchup. Today is our midweek waiver wire episode, so we're going to look at some goalies, defensemen, and forwards that are low ownership, that have either been on a hot streak or getting some opportunity due to injuries, etc., to hopefully help strengthen your roster not only for this week but future weeks as well, so you get a little bit of runway with them. So basically we'll get right into it. Some goalies there. The first one is Eric Schalgren from Toronto. Owned in 35% of Yahoo leagues. He started the last 4 games. He's 2-2 with a 2.86 goals against average, 893 save percentage. With him, 500 record, not the greatest save percentage, but with Murray and Samsonov, want to say Samsonov, but I've heard it pronounced Samsonov. Anyways, on the IR right now, he's going to get a few more starts, kind of the one with the most NHL experience. Not a lot, but a little bit. Might get a little bit of runway with him as a third option for you. Or if you have Samsonov or Murray on the IR, might be an option for you. Another one's over in Buffalo. Look at Eric Comrie. He's owned in 27% of Yahoo leagues. He's won 4 of 10 starts so far, so not the greatest record, but he is getting a majority of starts. So if it's more volume-based that you're looking at, he is going to get you some starts there. Decent depth option if you need an extra goalie there for you. And the last one's Antti Ranta in Carolina, owned in 45% of Yahoo leagues. He's won 2 of 5 starts so far, so under 500, but he is going to get the majority of the starts. Good goals against average at 2.47, save percentage at 911. With Anderson on the IR, look at Ranta to get a little bit of runway here, so you could definitely use him. Carolina's a stronger team there. Going up to some defensemen now. Look at Ryan Graves from New Jersey. He's owned in 13% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on the second pairing there. He has 5 points the last 9 games, so over a half point per game. Just plus 11 though, and 15 blocks. He is getting better offense of late, and he adds value with plus minus in his blocks. So depending how your league is formatted, might be a decent depth piece for you. Next one's also in New Jersey. Look at John Marino. He's owned in only 3% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on that second pairing with Graves, and he has 7 points in his last 10 games, so pretty decent production, and a plus. He's been plus 8 in those 10 games there. So not bad, but not great in the other categories. Depending how your league is formatted and how deep the league is, might be an option as a depth piece for you. Next one's over in Ottawa. Look at Jake Sanderson. He's owned in 38% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on that second pairing and up on the top power play unit. He has 6 points his last 11 games played, so a hair over half point per game. 3 of those points being on the power play, so half of his points there. 19 shots on goal, 9 hits, and 14 blocks. He contributes in most categories, so if it's a broad-based league, depending how deep it is, could provide some value for you. Next one is Eric Gustafsson over in Washington there. Owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on the top pairing, second power play unit. He's had 3 assists 4 games ago, but 3 points the last 4 games. More of a short-term ad with Orlov being on the IR, but he does get some power play time there. So in a really, really deep league, because he is more of that power play specialist kind of defenseman, might provide a little bit of value for you depending how your league is formatted. Another one in Washington's Nick Jensen, owned in 19% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that second pairing. He had 2 points over the last 3 games, 0 points the previous 4, but then he had 5 points the previous 5. So with him, his value really is his hits and blocks, but he is showing, it's streaky, but he is showing more offense than he has in the past. So if you're looking for some hits and blocks, might provide some value for you, and you might get a little bit of chipped in offense here and there. Next one's Nick Perbix in Tampa Bay, 0% owned, so available everywhere. He's playing on that second pairing, and he's currently on a 4-game point streak where he has 3 goals and 2 assists for 5 points, is a +6 during that streak, and has 4 blocks. He's on a nice little run now. He's playing in that top 4 in Tampa Bay there. They're a pretty deep squad, so he might provide a little bit of value in a deeper league. Next one's Caleb Jones in Chicago. He's owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues. Playing third pairing, but getting top unit power play time. He has 6 points his last 10 games, so pretty decent production. 2 of those points being on the power play. 13 hits and 23 blocks. So you do see that value with hits and blocks. And he is on the first power play unit while his brother Seth is out with that, I believe it's a wrist injury. He's out 3 to 4 weeks. Should be more in the 2 to 3 range now. But with that, he's getting some more offensive opportunities, so might provide some value for you over the next couple of weeks. Another one in Chicago is Jake McCabe. He's owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues. He has 4 points the last 9 games, so just under a half point per game. You'd like to see a little bit more, but he has 16 hits in those 9 games and 28 blocks. So he really has good hit and block value for you. And if he's chipping in a little bit of offense, it's just an added bonus for you. Depending how your league is formatted and how deep your league is, might be a depth option for you. Another one is Brady Shea over in Carolina, owned in 37% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on that second pairing, he has 5 points in his last 11 games, so a hair under, but he does get decent amount of hits and blocks. He kind of chips in every category. The offense is okay, so if you want to kind of chip in a little bit in every category where you don't bottom out in one, might be a depth option for you. Next one's Noah Hannafin over in Calgary. He's owned in 49% of Yahoo leagues, playing on that top pairing second power play unit, and he has 5 points in his last 6 games there. And in those 6 games, he's fired 21 pucks on net and 13 blocks. He's been pretty good of late, and do remember, he had 48 points last year, really slow start this year, so it might be the trend where he's coming up there and should be a decent piece for you going forward. Next one's JJ Moser in Arizona, owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the top pairing, top power play unit, and he has 3 points his last 4 games, and in those 4 games, 6 shots on goal, 3 hits, 4 blocks. He is really streaky with his offense, so you'd want more of a deeper league where you can kind of wait it out for him, but he does chip in the other categories, and as he's coming along, hopefully it brings some value for you in a really deep league. And the last defenseman to look at is Philip Hronek in Detroit there. Owned in 30% of Yahoo leagues. Playing second pairing, second power play unit. He has 8 points in his last 12 games. 4 of those being on the power play. 27 shots on goal and 16 hits. He's been pretty good all season. Fairly consistent. Contributes in most categories. So he should be a fairly decent depth piece for you. Now we'll move along to some forwards to look at. First one's Jamie Benn over in Dallas. He's listed as center left winger, owned in 54% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on that third line top power play unit, he's been hot. 11 points in the last 6 games, +5. 6 of those 11 points being on the power play and 20 shots on goal. As I mentioned, he's been really hot of late. He's kind of digging back to when he was in his prime there and winning the scoring title. But with that, he should be a pretty good depth piece for you. You can slot him either on left wing or center, so a little bit of versatility, and kind of ride the hot wave. If he's available, I'd be grabbing him. Next one is Carter Verhaeghe over in Florida there. Listed as a left winger, owned in 63% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on the top line, second power play unit. And he's put up 12 points in his last 9 games there with 31 shots on goal. He's been really good the last few weeks there. He plays on Barkov's wing. That line's been really running of late there. So if he is available, I would try to grab him. Next one's Thomas Hertl over in San Jose. Listed as a center, owned in 56% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on the top line, top power play unit. He's been really hot. 10 points in the last 7 games there. Plus 6 in those 7 games. 3 of those points being on the power play. 7 hits, 6 blocks. Been really contributing in most categories there. Depending how broad-based your scoring is in your league. Definitely be a fairly decent depth piece for you. Next one's over in New Jersey. Look at Nico Heishire. Listed as a center, owned in 65% of Yahoo leagues, playing top line, top power play unit. He's currently on a 7-game point streak where he has 5 goals and 5 assists for 10 points, plus 9 in those 7 games, 23 shots on goal, 4 blocks. He's really been good all season, been over a point per game or damn near right around it there, and he contributes in more than just the points categories. So if he is available, I think you'd be pretty happy with him in your roster. Next one's Kirby Dach over in Montreal, listed as center right winger, owned in 30% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the top line, top power play unit, and he's put up 11 points in his last 7 games there, been a plus 7, 4 power play points and 12 shots on goal. He's really fitting in on that top line with Caulfield and Suzuki. So with that, look for that to continue. And the other guys are higher ownership. You could slot him in, get some piggyback points, and you should like him as a depth option. Over in Buffalo, look at Jeff Skinner, listed as a left winger, owned in 35% of Yahoo leagues, playing top line, top power play unit. And he's put up 10 points his last 9 games there with 29 shots on goal, firing a lot of pucks on net. He's obviously been over a point per game the last few weeks there, and he usually plays with Thompson, and Thompson's been pretty good this year. So with that, he should be a pretty okay depth piece. Next one's Miles Wood over in New Jersey, listed as a left winger, only owned in 13% of Yahoo leagues, plays on that 4th line but gets second unit power play time, and he has 8 points in his last 7 games there, plus 6, 27 shots on goal, and 9 hits. He's been really hot of late. He might force his way up in the lineup. He does play 4th line minutes, so that kind of does hinder how much he can blossom for you, but in a really, really deep league, might be a viable option for you. Next one's Clayton Keller over in Arizona, listed as left winger, right winger, owned at 65%, so right on that threshold where we consider split low ownership, high ownership. But he's on the top line, top power play unit, and he has 10 points his last 8 games with 21 shots on goal. He really is building on a really good season that he had last year, and it's continuing into this year. So if he is available, I think you'd be pretty happy with him. Other than plus minus is going to hurt in the desert, but what you're going to gain offensively, I think it should kind of outnumber that. Next one's Brock Nelson for the Islanders there, listed as a center, owned in 55% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the second line, top power play unit, and he's put up 9 goals, 3 assists for 12 points in just the last 10 games there. He's really hot. He's averaging almost a goal a game over the last 10 there, having 9 of them. And Islanders are scoring more, and he potted 37 last year, so I think you'd be pretty happy with him as a depth piece. Next one's Brandon Hagel for Tampa Bay, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 43% of Yahoo leagues, playing on that top line and up on the top power play unit now, and he has 12 points in his last 10 games there. He's really fitting in great with Kucherov and Point on that top line, and he's even been, as I mentioned, up on that top power play unit, so look for the production to continue, and you should like him as a depth piece. Next one is Thomas Tatar over in New Jersey there. Listed as left winger, right winger. Owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on that top line, second power play unit. And he's currently on a 7-game point streak where he has 9 points. In those 7 games, he's a plus 12, 5 hits, and 5 blocks. So he's on a really good run right now. He's up on that top line, been sticking around there for a few games. And as that continues, you should see his production go in the right direction, should say. And with that, you should like him as a depth piece. Another one's over in Philly. Look at Travis Konechny. Been pounding his name pretty much every week so far. But listed as a right winger. Owned in 63% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on that top line, top power play unit. And he has 8 points right now during a 6-game point streak with 20 shots on goal and 9 hits. He's really been good all year. He's contributing in a few other categories. Should be a pretty good depth piece for you if you can get him in your league. Next one's Lucas Raymond over in Detroit. Listed as a right winger, owned in 60% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the top line, top power play unit, and he has 7 points in his last 8 games there, 4 of those points being on the power play and 18 shots on goal. He does have the talent, and he is heating up there. He's a little bit streaky at times, but with his offensive talent, I think you should like him as a depth piece anyways. Next one's over in Anaheim. Look at Ryan Strome, listed as a center, owned in 14% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the top line, top power play unit, and he's put up 6 points in his last 7 games there, so almost a point per game, 16 shots on goal. He really is streaky though. He's really hot or cold, as is Anaheim's lines for the most part, outside of Zegras and Terry there, but in a deep league, he could be a decent depth option for you. Next one's his brother, Ryan Strome, over in Washington, listed as center right winger, owned in 38% of Yahoo leagues, playing on that second line, top power play unit, and he's put up 6 points his last 8 games there with 16 shots on goal. Damn near same amount as his brother stats-wise. A little bit more versatility. You can play him center or right wing, but very similar. He can be really streaky when you get him in the lineup. It's generally a multi-point game if he does get points or he gets you a bagel, but could be a decent depth option for you depending how deep your league is. Next one's over in LA. Look at Victor Arvidsson, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in only 16% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the second line, second power play unit. He's put up 10 points in his last 11 games, so basically a point per game for the last 3-4 weeks here. 30 shots on goal. He's been pretty consistent throughout the year there. He actually deserves a little more love than 16% ownership. I think he could be a fairly decent depth piece for you, depending on how your league is formatted there. Next one, we're back in New Jersey. Look at Nathan Bastian, listed as a right winger, available everywhere, 0% owned. Plays on that fourth line, but plays on the top power play unit right now. And he's put up 6 points his last 7 games there, with +3 and 16 hits. He is playing the fourth line, but he does get top unit power play time, which increases his value a little bit. But with fourth line minutes, you're looking more if you're in a really, really deep league, could be an option for you just with his power play production there. Next one's Matias Michelli in Arizona, listed as a left winger, owned in only 1% of Yahoo leagues, but playing on the second line, second power play unit, and he's put up 9 points his last 11 games there. He's been producing and shooting a little bit more of late. His other blocks and hits categories are basically non-existent there, but from a pure offensive standpoint, if it's a deeper league, might be a decent depth piece for you. Back to Florida, look at Anton Lundell, listed as a center, owned in 38% of Yahoo leagues, centering that second line and second power play unit there. And he has 8 points his last 10 games there with 23 shots on goal. Gets a decent amount of blocks generally. And he has taken over that second line center spot from Bennett. And with that, he's getting a little more opportunity. His production should improve. He was a pretty darn good third line center last year with his production. Nice streaming option. Now he might move into a role more as a decent depth piece for you. Next one's Matt Barzal for the Islanders. Listed as a center, owned in 62% of Yahoo leagues. Plays on the top line, top power play unit, and he has 7 assists in his last 5 games there. 4 of those being on the power play and 12 shots on goal. He is a point per game player over the season so far this year. As we mentioned earlier with Nelson, the Islanders are scoring more, so it should help out his offensive production there. He's more of an assist man, doesn't have any goals yet on the year, but could be a really deep center in the right format for you. Next one's Riley Smith over in Vegas, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 65% of Yahoo leagues, playing on the second line, second power play unit, and he's potted 6 goals the last 5 games. That's an S-load of goals in that short a time. 13 shots on goal and 7 hits. He's really been filling the net of late and should be a decent depth piece. If he is available, I'd be grabbing him right now with how hot he is. Next one's over in Vancouver. Look at Andrei Kuzmenko, listed as a left winger, owned in 39% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on that second line top power play unit. He's been pointless the last 3 games, but before that he put up 9 points in a 5-game stretch. He has been really streaky, but you can't deny his offensive potential there, so in a deeper league he'd probably be a pretty nice depth piece for when he does get into that hot streak there. Next one's Evan Rodriguez over in Colorado, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on that second line top power play unit, and I should mention he's listed as left winger, right winger, but right now he is centering that second line, so pretty soon he could be offered as center, left wing, and right wing, so you can slot him anywhere, which does add some value for you. But he's put up 5 points the last 6 games there, 23 shots on goal. He's been really effective of late, been very versatile for him, sometimes playing on the top line at times. And he is on that top power play unit. We know how deadly McKinnon, Makar, Ratinen, etc. are. So could get some secondary points on that power play. So in a deeper league, might be a pretty nice depth option for you. And the last one's Jonathan Taves in Chicago there. Listed as a center, owned in 21% of Yahoo leagues. Playing on that second line top power play unit. And he's put up 8 points the last 11 games, so really nice production from the veteran. 3 of those being on the power play, 27 shots on goal and 7 blocks. And if face-off wins are counted in your league, he wins a ton of them, so that adds some extra value. And he's producing in other categories other than just face-offs. He's getting you the points, the blocks, the shots on goal, etc. Really has been a nice, well-rounded piece, so he in the right format he could be a really nice depth piece. Really do hope you did enjoy today's episode. We'll be out in a bit with our weekend ads episode for week 6, and if you did like it, remember to hit like, hit subscribe, remember that notification bell if you're watching on YouTube there, and if you're listening via podcast, remember to hit follow, hit that heart, hit subscribe, etc., depending what platform you're listening to it on. And good luck, fantasy owners, and we'll talk to you soon.